So there's this trope I see in a lot of shows, but especially anime. Like I was just watching I Have Few Friends, and there's this sort of joke they do where they have like a popular character or a cool character, and then that cool character is like into something traditionally nerdy, like they're into video games or anime or whatever. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, she's the most popular girl in school and she plays 50 hours of video games on the weekends. That's unbelievable. And see, I was thinking about this because I've played World of Warcraft like my whole life. Like I got out of it for a while, but with the new expansion, they reeled me back in. Some friends convinced me to pick it up again, and I really enjoy World of Warcraft as like a background activity. I have like just crippling ADHD, and I can't focus on one thing without getting a little like fidgety. So I really like World of Warcraft because I don't have to think very hard about it, and I can just put something else on or have something in the background and do something else, or go over to homework, or I put on an audiobook or whatever the case is, and I can just focus on two things at once, and it makes me feel more productive, and I enjoy my time a lot more. It's how I like to unwind when I'm unwinding, is doing a couple of things at once. It's another reason why I actually like dubbed anime, but that's neither here nor there right now. But a thing I've found is when World of Warcraft was first coming out, I saw a lot of articles that were saying things like, hey, if you play World of Warcraft, you could put it on your resume. You could say that you were in a guild that required high-level cooperation, and it taught you all these valuable skills, and this, that, and the other. And you see some of that reflected in some of those animes and some of that media I was talking about, like, oh, this character is really good at shooters, so they have really fast reaction time, and that translates into being able to do this better. And I don't agree with that necessarily. I don't think usually there's a whole lot of translation from being able to communicate with a guild well to being able to instruct people on what to do in most cases. Maybe if you were like a really good raid leader or something, I don't know. Probably not even then, honestly. It's different worlds. But what is useful, and what I don't see as often, is that, World of Warcraft isn't that strange. It had like 12 million players at one point. I often find that if I just say to someone, or like even an employer or a coworker or something, like, hey, I play World of Warcraft, or I used to play World of Warcraft, or hey, I was doing Dark Souls the other day, or whatever the case may be, like, I don't get ostracized for the things I'm into. Like if I'm into something that most people view as weird, they don't just say, hey, that's weird and dumb and I hate you. They're curious about it. They're like, hey, I've always thought that was kind of strange. Why are you into it? I mean, maybe the case would be different if it was like, I don't know, something pseudo-sexual or actually sexual or something like that. But in my case, like when I worked at the radio station, it was a super conservative radio station where everyone that worked there besides me and one other guy were like over the age of 50. So when I say stuff like, I go LARPing on the weekends, they're like, well, that's weird. What is that? Tell me about that. And, you kind of get into why you like it, that kind of thing. And it just has never been a hindrance that I'm into weird stuff or traditionally nerdy stuff. It's always been an opportunity to converse with people more. It's been a door opener. And in a lot of cases, especially stuff like World of Warcraft, like I was at an interview once, and I said, well, what do you do for fun? And this is when I was super into World of Warcraft. This was back when I was in college the first time. And I say, I play World of Warcraft. I like to do that in my free time. And they're like, oh, cool. What do you play? Like, what's your role? Like, do you like PvP? Do you like PvE? And we had a conversation like that. It's like, oh, well, that's really cool. I really like to PvP with my friends. We're going for this or that ranking or whatever. I'm a PvE player. I don't like PvP very much. I'm not good at it. But more often than not, I find that the weird things you're into allow you to communicate with other people more, and I wish that was reflected in media more often, because you don't need a contrivance as to the reason why this thing you do helps communicate with other people. You don't need like, oh, I'm really good at sports games, so I understand the rules of sports really well. I think it can be just so much simpler than that. It's like, the way me and my friends talk, because we all live really far away, is we hop on Discord and play Rocket League or whatever the case might be. And that doesn't have to be some ostracizing, strange thing. I think people should be more upfront about the things they're into. They should just say, hey, I like doing this. Because I think we're entering into an age, or we really are already in an age, where everybody is into so many weird things. Everybody has so many weird interests and talents. Sometimes you can kind of connect these things. For instance, when I was working at the radio station, and I was like, hey, I really like LARPing. I had this coworker, Deb, who was a old school news lady, been working in the news industry for years and years. And I was talking about the costumes and just the sort of stuff we do. And she's like, oh, that kind of reminds me, I'm super into Kiss. Like, because I guess she related the costumes or something. Deb was also like the master of taking your story and telling her own story that was maybe only a little bit related, but it led to a great conversation, because that's how Deb felt about being super into Kiss, and she was kind of into metal in general, and she was like an older lady, upper 40s, 50s, in that age, so she thought it was weird, and I'm sure a lot of her coworkers thought it was weird, but that was a thing she and her husband really bonded over, was Kiss, and going to Kiss concerts and doing that whole activity. So I don't think anyone should be ashamed of the things they're into. You should wear them on your sleeve, because you were drawn to them for a reason. There was something about that spoke to you personally and helped you maybe figure something out about yourself, or maybe you helped define yourself through ingestion of that media. And trying to hide those things because you view them as unpopular or difficult to explain, or whatever the case might be, isn't necessarily helpful for communication, because then you have to like obscure parts of yourself to continue that facade if you're going to be working with someone long term, or if you want to communicate with someone long term. Now, there are obviously like some caveats to this, like religion, for instance. Like, people get really touchy about religion. Be careful when you approach it. A lot of people aren't good about talking about religion for whatever reason. Lots of younger people are, actually. Like, I've found so much acceptance in my current social group. Like, everybody's willing to be civil and nice about it. The other thing is pizza toppings. Like, nobody agrees on pizza toppings. Don't discuss why your pizza topping is the best. Just don't even bring it up. And you could probably say politics, but we're in such a politically charged climate. On a complete tangent that just struck my mind, but Noam Chomsky said that religion used to be the opiate of the masses, or whatever. It was the thing that kept people calm, and that had sort of evolved into sports. Like, sports had become the new religion. It's the thing that keeps people on the level, relaxed and stuff. And I think that that's super interesting, especially when you consider like how much political favors like the NFL has, for instance. Like, can you imagine if they didn't play the Super Bowl on TV, if they like made you pay for it? I bet people would be calling their congressman immediately to get the Super Bowl put on TV. Anyway, I think we are moving towards an age where politics is going to replace sports as the opiate of the masses. Like, we're just going to be kept in a state of fluctuating between I'm super angry about politics and I'm super happy that politics are finally going my way, and there's no time to evaluate the fine details because I'm either happy or angry, and it's just this fluctuating fight. And if you look at like sports and politics, we have a lot of the same problems. Like, you build these team dynamics and people get fiercely loyal to one team. And anyway, politics will have to be another discussion, because I got, I guess, a lot to say about politics. Actually, that's sort of the reason I'm going back to school, is I want to get into law school so I can get into politics, because I got real sick of working at a radio station and just reporting on bad news all the time, bad politics, and I wanted to go and do something about it. Neither here nor there. Anyway, I forget where I was going with this. Oh, right. Anyway, I would really like it if shows would just let characters be honest about the things that they're into and like not have to have these contrivances that are like, oh, you know, I'm into video games. Oh, what a nerd. Or if I tell them I'm into video games, they're gonna think I'm a dork. Like, it's not necessary. It's not even really true. Like, those things are so ubiquitous. Like, even like with like My Hero Academia and like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, comic books and anime are so broadly known and broadly understood at this point. You could start a conversation with anybody as long as you're good at sort of threading the needle about it. Like, if you can connect whatever you're into to whatever they're into, you guys can have a splendid conversation about the things that you like about those mediums or those art pieces. So yeah, just be yourself. If you're into something, don't feel a need to hide it. And if you're a writer, don't write characters that are ashamed of the things that they do or the things that they're into, unless that's like the entire point of the art, I guess. Don't use it as a writing contrivance. I don't like it. Anyway, until next time, guys, stay hungry.